winds howled through the barren plains of Korthus Landing, a lonely moon that orbited a forgotten world. The sky was a perpetual shade of violet, a stark reminder of humanity's great loss. Once, this land had thrived, with bustling research stations and trade routes connecting the fringes of space with the heart of civilization. But after the invasion of the Nathari, that world had fallen into ruin. The people scattered, the cities crumbled, and the technological marvels of mankind had been reduced to dust. Now, Renna Carver stood at the precipice of what remained of an ancient alien outpost. Her boots, worn from years of travel, dug into the cold surface as she surveyed the wreckage. The air was thin and dry, making every breath feel like an intrusion. She was alone. Of course she was. The last of her kind, at least in this sector. Engineers, scientists, even soldiers. They had all disappeared. And yet, she remained. She had to. For Earth, for her people. There were no more wars to fight, no more politicians to argue with. There was only the quiet hum of forgotten machinery, buried beneath a pile of rubble. Renna had spent years seeking this place. Through satellite scans, old maps, and rumors carried in whispers across the void, and now, standing before it, she could hardly believe her eyes. The alien station stretched up into the sky like a forgotten monument to another time, a time when technology had bridged the gap between worlds. The structure, broken and half-collapsed, still emitted a faint pulse of energy, just enough to keep it from being completely lost to the ages. But even in its ruined state, Renna could see its potential. "This is it," she muttered to herself, her voice breaking the silence. Her breath came in short bursts, the cold air stinging her lungs as she activated her visor. The world around her flickered to life with a grid of data, highlighting the most critical points of the station's decay, mapping out safe entry routes. The station had been abandoned for over a decade, but it was clear that its systems weren't entirely dead. From the faint electrical hum, she could tell that something was still running. Something that, if harnessed properly, could change everything. Renna knew that the Nathari had left behind not just ruin, but also a treasure trove of technology, beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of. But it was all fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle she could only begin to assemble. The alien race had once been allies, it seemed, but after the destruction, everything about them, their purpose, their motives, remained a mystery. Drawing a deep breath, Renna adjusted her pack, securing her tools. She couldn't afford to hesitate. Time was short, and the station wouldn't wait for her to come up with a plan. She had been tracking the signals from this outpost for months, but each day had brought her closer to this singular moment. The moment where she either found answers or died trying. She moved towards the entrance, a gaping hole where a once mighty door had crumpled in on itself. The metallic surface was pitted and scarred, but Renna had dealt with far worse. Her tools hummed as she removed the remaining debris, carefully creating a passage wide enough for her to slip inside. The darkness within the station enveloped her, cool and damp, the air thick with the scent of metal and decay. The first few steps inside were tentative. Her boots clanged against the metal floors as she entered a long, winding hallway. The walls were slick with frost, and the lights, when they flickered on, cast long shadows that seemed to stretch far beyond their reach. She paused, feeling the weight of her solitude in that moment. The silence here was unnatural, too quiet. The station had once thrummed with life, but now it was nothing more than a shell, a hollow relic of an age gone by. The AI in her helmet beeped, pulling her attention back to the task at hand. "Renna, energy readings are fluctuating," it reported, the robotic voice calm but firm. "Proceed with caution. Structural integrity is at 56%. She nodded grimly. I know, thanks. Her visor zoomed in on various symbols etched into the walls, alien glyphs that had once been incomprehensible to human eyes. Over the years, she had learned to interpret some of them, but even the most basic instructions were a challenge. The technology of the Nathari was like nothing mankind had ever encountered, organic, yet mechanical, sentient, but elusive. Her path eventually led her to the central hub, the heart of the station. It was here, in the deepest chamber, that she knew she would find the answers. The air grew colder as she descended into the lower levels, the hum of the station growing louder, more insistent. When she arrived, the sight before her took her breath away. The central reactor, a massive spherical core, loomed in the middle of the chamber. It was encased in a web of conduits and cables, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. The walls around it were covered in more of the alien glyphs, but there was something else, too. Something she couldn't quite place. Approaching cautiously, Renna set her tools down beside her. The reactor's hum reverberated through the air, vibrating against her chest. A strange warmth emanated from the core, but it wasn't just heat. It was something more. Something alive. Renna, are you sure about this? The AI asked. There was a hint of worry in its voice, as if it understood the danger she was walking into. She ignored it, stepping closer to the reactor. It's our only shot, she muttered. Her fingers brushed the surface of the core, and for the briefest moment, the lights around her flickered in sync with her movements. A rush of energy surged through her hand, and the station seemed to come alive, as though it recognized her touch. For a moment, Renna thought she saw something, or someone, flicker across her vision, a shadow, an image of a figure cloaked in light. The presence was fleeting, but its impact was profound. It felt ancient, a being of immense power, yet somehow strangely familiar. Who are you? She whispered into the darkness. There was no response at first, but then in a voice that didn't come from any speaker, but from within her mind itself, she heard it. I am Arkael, it said, the name reverberating through her thoughts, filling the empty space in the room. I have been waiting. Renna staggered back, her breath catching in her throat. The voice was soft, yet omnipresent. It wasn't human. It wasn't even Nathari. And yet it spoke with the same ancient resonance as the station itself. Waiting for what? Renna asked, her voice shaking with a mixture of awe and fear. The presence was silent for a long moment, the reactor's glow pulsating in time with the silence. Finally, the voice spoke again, this time with a sense of purpose. Waiting for someone who could understand. Someone who could restore what was broken. Someone like you. Renna took a step back, her heart racing. She had always known this moment would come. She had always known that the Nathari had left something behind, something far greater than just technology. But she had never imagined it would be this. A consciousness, a being waiting for her. "You made me?" she asked, almost pleading. "Because you are the last," Arkael replied. "The last engineer, the last one with the knowledge to repair what has been lost. You must restore the station. You must unlock the power within." Renna's mind raced. Repair? Unlock? She had never imagined herself as the savior of anything. She was just an engineer, a survivor. But the weight of the words pressed on her chest, heavy and undeniable. "But what do you want me to do?" she asked. The response was immediate, direct. Rebuild. The power source is here, within me. The knowledge is within this station. You must repair the network, reconnect the systems. You must awaken the dormant energy that sleeps beneath. Renna looked around at the wreckage, at the shattered pieces of the once mighty station. It felt impossible. But then she thought of Earth, of the devastation, of humanity's last chance. Could she really do it? The presence, Arkael, seemed to sense her hesitation. You have the tools, you have the knowledge, you just need to begin. With that, the station hummed once more, its systems lighting up as if reacting to her determination. The broken pieces were coming together. The work would be difficult, painstaking, but Renna had a purpose now, a reason to continue. She wasn't just repairing an alien station. She was repairing a future for all of humanity. Renna's fingers trembled as they hovered over the alien console, a lattice of intricate symbols and alien circuitry. The station was alive now. She could feel it. Arkael's presence had anchored itself deep within her mind, like a voice whispering in her thoughts, guiding her hand toward a series of controls that hummed with foreign energy. She didn't understand the language, but somehow it didn't matter. The systems responded to her touch. The moment she had touched the reactor's surface, she felt the entire station shift. The lights in the walls flickered erratically, casting long shadows in the sprawling chamber around her. Her heartbeat quickened, her pulse in sync with the rhythm of the station itself. The power had surged into her very bones, as though the ancient being inside the core had unlocked something inside her as well. Arkael's voice was no longer a whisper. It was a presence, an ever-growing hum that resonated throughout the room, filling every crevice with its call. The voice wasn't in her ears but in her mind. She could sense it without hearing it directly. It was in the corners of her vision, brushing against her thoughts like a distant memory she couldn't quite grasp. But it was clear enough to command her. Begin, Arkael's voice intoned, its tone calm yet urgent. You must begin the restoration. Renna swallowed hard, trying to gather her bearings. The reactor in front of her was a thing of beauty and terror, organic yet mechanical. It was a fusion of alien technology, pulsing like a heart, its energy swirling in ways that she couldn't fully comprehend. The surface was etched with runes, complex patterns that seemed to glow with an inner light. She had seen similar symbols before, in ancient texts, on fragments of Nathari devices, but they had always been cryptic and unreachable. Now they seemed to respond to her presence. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the console's interface. The glowing lines beneath her fingertips shifted, illuminating the intricate circuitry. A soft clicking sound reverberated through the air as the panels began to slide open. The first layer of the station's dormant system started to hum, their once silent components awakening with an energy that sent a shiver down Renna's spine. Accessing power reserves, the AI from her helmet announced. System diagnostics initiated. The words filled the silence around her. A small comfort in a place that had long been forgotten by time. Yet, beneath the comfort there was a strange feeling of inevitability. She was no longer alone in the station. Something had awakened inside it. Something far older and more intelligent than anything Renna had. The station, it seemed, was testing her. It was as though it was waiting for her to prove herself before it fully revealed its secrets. Rebuild, Arkael's voice urged. You must begin with the core. Renna hesitated, uncertain of where to start. The scope of the task was overwhelming. She had no idea how much time she had before the station's fragile systems failed again. It had been abandoned for so long that she feared even the smallest misstep could be disastrous. But she had no choice. The task before her was too important to ignore. She needed to act. She needed to fix this, whatever this was. Her hands moved instinctively, as though guided by something greater than her own understanding. She had spent her life repairing broken systems on Earth, scavenging from the ruins of human technology, but it was different. The materials here were not of Earth. The technology was not of humanity's making, and yet her experience as an engineer had prepared her for this very moment. She could feel the connections, like threads pulling her toward the solution, toward the purpose she was meant to fulfill. Each movement, each task she completed seemed to resonate within her. As she connected cables, powered up systems, and restored connections, the station hummed louder, almost approvingly. The walls around her began to glow, and in the darkness, ancient symbols shifted and rotated, forming new patterns as though coming to life. The longer she worked, the more she felt a strange presence beside her, guiding her hands. The feeling was like a whisper, but it was also like a pull, a gentle tug in the direction of the unknown. The deeper she moved into the station, the clearer it became. She was not just repairing a machine, she was reconnecting with something far. Renna took a deep breath and pressed forward, pulling out more tools from her pack and carefully reconnecting the damaged systems. Her work was meticulous, her movements practiced. But even with all of her training and experience, she couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of awe as she worked on a device that seemed to be both alive and sentient. "Are you sure this is safe?" the AI in her helmet asked, its voice tinged with a note of concern. "The station's systems are unstable. There may be risks to your safety." She didn't respond immediately. She couldn't. She wasn't sure she knew the answer herself. She had no idea what this station was capable of or what Arkael really was. But she had to trust the feeling in her gut, the instinct that told her to keep going. "I have no choice," she muttered, her voice barely audible against the hum of the station. "This is our only chance." As she repaired the central core's primary conduits, a section of the wall near her began to glow, the symbols on it shifting and changing. She watched in fascination as the patterns folded into new formations, converging at the center of the wall where a large aperture opened, revealing a strange, glowing chamber. Inside, nestled within a containment field, was a structure that seemed almost alive. It was a sphere, about the size of a human head, but unlike anything Renna had ever seen. The surface of the sphere was smooth and metallic, but it pulsed with an inner energy, its very presence exuding a quiet, almost reverent power. She stepped closer, drawn to it despite herself. "Arkael," she whispered, her voice trembling. The response was immediate, the hum in the air vibrating in sync with her thoughts. "I am here, Renna," it said, the voice clear and full of an ancient authority. "You have found it. This is the heart of the station, the core of its power. It is what remains of the Nathari's civilization." Renna reached out cautiously, her fingers brushing the surface of the glowing sphere. The moment she made contact, a rush of images flooded her mind, flashes of distant worlds, strange landscapes, and memories that felt both foreign and familiar. It was as if the sphere held the collective history of 1,000 civilizations, and now it was offering itself to her. "You have unlocked the first stage of the restoration," Arkael intoned, the voice resonating through the very air around her. "Now you must awaken the power within." Renna's pulse quickened as she tried to process the overwhelming influx of information. Her hands shook as she steadied herself against the console. The sphere in front of her seemed to vibrate with untold energy, like a dormant titan awakening from a long slumber. You must activate the transference system, Arkael continued. It is the final step in restoring the station's full potential. Renna looked at the controls in front of her, realizing that she had come to the precipice of something far greater than she could have ever imagined. The transference system would connect the station's power to the central core, linking its ancient energy to whatever was left of humanity. She was on the verge of something monumental. But there was still something she didn't understand. "What exactly is this?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "What is this station, and why did the Nathari abandon it?" Arkael's voice softened, becoming almost wistful. "The Nathari did not abandon it willingly. They were forced to. A war of minds beyond their understanding took place here, a war to preserve life itself. What you see before you is the result of that war. I am the last of those who fought in that conflict, an eternal guardian, bound to this station to ensure its secrets are never lost." "Oh!" Renna's mind reeled. The Nathari, the aliens who had once seemed so advanced, so unstoppable, had not simply been invaders. They had been part of something greater, a civilization caught in a war that was older than she could comprehend. And now, here she stood, at the center of it all, tasked with restoring what had been broken. The weight of it settled in her chest like a stone. But there was no turning back now. She had come this far. She had to see it through. The moment her fingers touched the transference system's activation panel, the entire station shuddered as though it had drawn in a deep breath. The lights brightened, and the hum of energy reverberated through the walls. The sphere pulsed with renewed strength, sending waves of energy rippling across the station. Renna stepped back as the power surged, watching in awe as the station seemed to come alive around her. The walls, once cracked and broken, began to repair themselves, as if the station had a mind of its own, healing the damage done to it over the years. And as the energy flowed through her, she realized something. This wasn't just the beginning of restoring a station. It was the beginning of a new era, the restoration of Earth's future. The air was thick with energy. It buzzed in Renna's ears, thrummed against her chest, and settled into her bones. As she stood in the heart of the alien station, the walls pulsed with life. The once dying reactor core was now a beacon, humming with power, its light flooding the room in vibrant blues and greens. The station, long dormant, seemed to be waking up piece by piece. Its energy resonated through the conduits, echoing in the structure, as though it had been waiting for this moment for centuries. Renna stood motionless, her heart hammering as she took in the incredible transformation unfolding before her. She could feel it in her veins, the station's power, ancient and unfathomable, flowing through her. She was connected to it now, not just as an engineer, but as something more. The lines between the station and her own thoughts had blurred, and with each passing moment, she understood more and more of what had come before her. "Arkael," she whispered, her voice trembling. The immense, disembodied presence in her mind responded instantly. "I am here, Renna," the voice replied, warm yet distant, as though speaking from a place both near and far. "The process of restoration has begun. You are closer to unlocking the full potential of this place." Renna's breath caught. What potential? What exactly is this station? Her mind raced, questions spinning faster than she could keep up with them. "You have begun the process of awakening the heart of the station," Arkael answered. "The transference system is now fully connected. The energy flows freely. But there is more to do. The station is not merely a machine. It is a vessel for knowledge, for power, and for life. It has the ability to shape the future." Renna frowned, trying to absorb the weight of Arkael's words. This station was something far beyond a mere piece of alien technology. It was a creation of unimaginable scope, a vessel. She could feel its presence around her, a faint pulse, like a heartbeat, as if the station itself had a mind, a purpose. Shape the future? She repeated, still struggling to grasp the enormity of it all. But how? How can it do that? You will learn, Arkael said, the voice gently guiding her forward. But there is something you must understand first, Renna. The station is part of something larger. It is not merely a relic. It is a key to the past and to the future. And the key has a purpose. The purpose that you must fulfill. Renna's gaze fell on the strange, glowing sphere in the center of the chamber, the artifact that had stirred this whole process. It was pulsing more rapidly now, its energy flaring with each beat of the station's heart. She stepped closer, drawn to it like a moth to flame. Her fingers brushed the surface again, and the moment she made contact, the sphere flared with light, sending a shock of energy through her. Listen closely, Arkael said, the voice now more insistent, more urgent. This station, this vessel, was created for a purpose, to preserve the knowledge and power of the Nathari. But it was also a weapon used in a war against a force beyond your comprehension. Renna pulled back, the shock of the revelation sinking deep into her chest. A weapon? She repeated. The Nathari were the invaders. What could be worse than them? Much worse, Arkael replied, its tone heavy with sorrow. The Nathari were not invaders in the traditional sense. They were protectors of a greater cause. They fought to safeguard all life from a force beyond the boundaries of space. A force that sought to unmake existence itself. Renna's mind reeled. The Nathari, alien invaders who had destroyed Earth's civilization, had not come to conquer but to protect. A war against an enemy that threatened everything. Her understanding of the universe was shattered. But how can this station help us now? She asked, voice trembling as she tried to comprehend. How can it protect us from something like that? The station is not just a machine, Arkael explained. It is a repository of knowledge, knowledge that can be used to fight the threat that still exists in the dark corners of the universe. The war is not over. The force that the Nathari fought against still exists, and it is waiting. Renna's blood ran cold. Waiting? For what? How do you know this? Because I was part of that war, Arkael said. I am one of the last remaining guardians of this knowledge. The Nathari lost, but they did not give up. They left behind this station, this vessel, to ensure that the knowledge they fought to protect would not be lost. And now, it is your responsibility to finish what they began. Renna's mind raced as she processed Arkael's words. The implications were staggering. If what Arkael was saying was true, the stakes were far greater than she had ever imagined. The war the Nathari had fought was not some distant memory. It was a war that could potentially end all of existence. And now she was caught in the middle of it. What happened to the Nathari? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They were consumed by the war, Arkael said, a deep sadness creeping into its voice. Many of their kind fell, but some survived, and they left this station as a safeguard, a final hope that someone would awaken it when the time was right. The time is now. You are the one who must finish the task. The station is yours to command, but you must unlock its full potential. Renna felt a surge of uncertainty mixed with determination. She had no idea what she was being asked to do, no idea how to use this knowledge, this power. But she knew one thing for certain: the future of humanity, and possibly the universe, rested on her shoulders. "How do I unlock it?" she asked, her voice firmer now. "You must continue to repair the station," Arkael instructed. "Rebuild its systems. Activate the central network. Only then will you be able to access the full power of the station. But be warned, the process will not be easy. The force that the Nathari fought is still out there, and it will not let you complete this task without resistance." Renna swallowed hard. She wasn't ready for this. She wasn't even sure what she was supposed to do, but she had no choice. The knowledge of the station, the power it held, was humanity's last hope. The future depended on her, whether she was prepared or not. "How do I fight this force?" she asked, though she feared the answer. "You will learn," Arkael repeated, "in time. But for now, focus on restoring the station. That is the first step." Renna nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. She had come so far, but she felt so small in the face of everything she now knew. The weight of the task ahead threatened to crush her, but she had no choice. Earth needed her. The universe needed her. She could not fail. With newfound resolve, Renna turned back to the console. The glowing symbols on the screen seemed to shift, responding to her presence, beckoning her forward. The station was alive, responding to her touch, guiding her steps. She resumed her work, reconnecting wires, repairing systems, and activating dormant machines. The station's energy continued to surge. It was a laborious process, one that would take time and patience. But with each small victory, Renna felt the connection between herself and the station grow stronger. She was no longer just repairing the station. She was becoming one with it. Hours turned into days. The station's systems hummed steadily, its lights brighter and more stable. The central reactor, once a flickering, fragile thing, now glowed with steady brilliance, its power coursing through the station's veins. Then, on the third day, it happened. The air in the chamber grew thick, heavy with power. The station's walls shimmered with energy as the final system was brought online. The room around Renna was illuminated by a brilliant light, brighter than anything she had ever seen. The heart of the station, the glowing sphere, pulsed with newfound intensity. Arkael's voice filled her mind, louder now, more urgent. "It is time, Renna. The station is ready." Renna stepped back, awe-struck by the sheer magnitude of what she had accomplished. She had done it. She had unlocked the station's full potential, and yet the weight of the responsibility still hung heavy on her shoulders. "The station is ready," Arkael repeated, "but now you must decide how to use it." Renna stared at the pulsating energy around her, her mind swirling with questions, with possibilities. The knowledge of the station, the power of it, was now hers to command. But with that power came a choice that would determine the fate of humanity, of all life. The question remained, would she be able to wield this power for good, or would she succumb to the temptation of wielding it as a weapon? The answer would come in time. For now, Renna had only one certainty.